And the recording has started. Chair LaHood, would you like me to introduce the meeting? I have 4:35.
Yes, please.
Okay. This is the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting. This is a remote regular meeting. Listen public call-in phone number 415-906-4659. Meeting ID 415-977-764#. If you wish to make a statement during general public comment, please press *6 and unmute your telephone to speak. Please press *6 to mute your telephone once you are done with your statement. Today is January 25th, 2022. Time is 4:35. Remote access to information and participation. In accordance with Governor Newsom's Executive Order N3320, declaring a state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 outbreak, and Mayor London and Breed's proclamation declaring a local emergency issued on February 25, 2020, including the guidance for gatherings issued by the San Francisco Department of Public Health Officer, aggressive directives were issued to reduce the spread of COVID-19. On March 17, 2020, the Board of Supervisors authorized their board and committee meetings to convene remotely via Microsoft Teams and will allow remote public comment via video conference. Members of the public may participate by phone or may submit their comments by email to cheryl.leger@sfgov.org. That's CHERYL.LEGER@sfgov.org. All comments received will be made a part of the official record. The Sunshine Ordinance Task Force agendas and their associated documents are available at sfbos.org/sunshine. As the COVID-19 disease progresses, please visit the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force website regularly to be updated on the current situation as it affects the legislative process. Chair LaHood, read meeting decorum?
Yes, meeting decorum. Any member of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force may call for decorum due to disorderly conduct of meeting participants. Persons who engage in threatening and or menacing behavior may be asked to leave. Please call the first agenda item.
Item number 1, call to order, roll call, and agenda changes. Let's do roll call. Member Neighbors.
Present.
Member Neighbors present. Member Wong.
Present.
Member Wong present. Member Highland.
Present.
Member Highland present. Chair LaHood.
Present.
Chair LaHood present. We have a quorum. Are you aware of anybody aware of any agenda changes for this meeting?
I am not.
Anybody else? Okay.
One thing I would ask before we proceed, I'm hearing quite a bit of feedback, and I know right now we're probably all talking and have our mics off, but just as a reminder for ourselves, if you know you're not going to be speaking, please mute. And also if anyone on the phone could please mute themselves if you are not actively speaking, and the way to mute and unmute your phone is *6. It both mutes and unmutes. So if we're hearing feedback, I may ask again for people to mute their lines.
Okay. Ready for item number 2, Chair LaHood?
Yes, please.
Item number 2, approval of the November 23rd, 2021 Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting minutes. I have a copy of minutes right here. Does anybody have any suggested changes?
So this is Chair LaHood. I'm going to jump in with something just to save us a little bit of time. And I think this is probably happening. So in item number 2, where we talk about approving the minutes, I see again with the first mention of Peter Warfield, if we could spell out association, because I know if Mr. Warfield is here, I think that will get brought up again, and we don't need to use up his public comment time for that. Also, it looks like maybe a wording thing. It says express disappointment that the minutes, and I think it might have been. I think he might have meant right in the minutes, because I think he was talking about the quality. That was it for me. Does anybody else have anything that they've noticed? Okay. Shall we take public comment then?
Just a second.
Okay, while you're getting ready, If anyone would like to make public comment on the minutes, we'll create a queue. Please identify yourself and we'll tell you what order that you'll be speaking, in which you'll be speaking. I haven't heard anyone yet, so you might be on mute. Press *6 to unmute yourself if you'd like to make public comment on the minutes.
Peter Warfield.
Okay, Mr. Warfield, you're first in line. Would anyone else like to make comment on the minutes? Okay, I'm not hearing anyone, but we'll ask again after Mr. Warfield finishes. Ms. Leger, if you could let Mr. Warfield know when you're ready with the timer, please let him know when he can begin.
Mr. Warfield, are you ready?
Yes, I am, whenever you say to start.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117-0544. Thank you to Chair LaHood for making those comments and corrections. A number of important changes, and they particularly have to do with accuracy and clarity as to what's happening, who's involved, and in one case, a complete reversal of what somebody has said with regard to their comment, reversing essentially the cause of something. The complaint was filed by Library Users Association with myself as Library Users Association Executive Director. The Library Commission President, who I think needs to be identified in what's going on, Library Commission President Mary, I know her in the agenda as Mary Wardell Giraduzzi. And Margot Schaub is Library Commission Affairs Analyst, not Public Library, as respondent, and Peter Warfield, petitioner. That's all Peter Warfield gets. No association with anything, no position. I'm Executive Director, Library Users Association. I believe that I said that whether or not somebody has more or less experience, the Library Commission needs to, still needs to make changes in the process. And I said that, I believe I said they were unnecessarily complex. One of the unfortunate problems with having no public comment by the participants in a hearing is that they never get to comment on the specific motion that you make. I think that's actually something that needs to be changed. However, anonymous number 3 needs a procedural change. Anonymous number 3 noted what the reason was that he thinks it happened that I was unable to make public comment. And that is, he was very clear. He said, it is not the case that technology requires lowering hands. It could be done as in the Sunshine Task Force. He said he'd had an experience where the hand was forcibly lowered and that the Library Commission could have done the same, not done that same thing, and he understood them to say that they had lowered my hand. The way that it reads now looks like I lowered my hand. I did not lower my hand. And that's very important to understand what's happening here. I have more to say, which I'd like to, but I think that my time is just about up.
Yeah,
Thank
you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Warfield. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment on the minutes? I heard a little feedback, but not a voice. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment on the minutes? Please press *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, maybe there is not anyone else. Does anyone else, members, do you have any questions about Mr. Warfield's suggested changes and the need for implementation and how we might do that? Do you have any thoughts on that, or should we ask him a few questions? Mr. Warfield, I have a question. or actually, let me ask Ms. Leger first. Ms. Leger, based on what Mr. Warfield said, are there, do you have a clear sense of what you would change, or do you need a little more guidance?
No, I mean, perhaps what I'm referring to is that Mary Giraduzzi is the president of the Library Commission. Maybe in the summary, that might be what he's talking about. The complaint was filed by Peter Warfield. I can put in executive director of library users.
I mean, so let's have a discussion among the members here. I believe what Mr. Warfield has mentioned. These are accurate. These are what he is suggesting are accurate points. However, I don't know that we do this in every single for every single case. However, I don't. There's nothing wrong with it. Please go ahead.
We don't typically put a person's title when we identify them either as the respondent or the petitioner. We identify them by name. Margot Schaub is the custodian of record for the public library, and also the contact for the Library Commission. So,
and I suppose our thinking is that if somebody wants to find out more about the case, they're going to look into the documents that were provided with the agenda, and that's where they would find additional information, or that we're trusting that people would be.
The minutes are separate from the published agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's. Ms. Schaub has not requested that we put her title in there. We only, like I said, we only identify people as by the department they work for. I mean, if it were David Steinberg, he's with Public Works. That's it. He doesn't have a title in there. He's with Public Works. So.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I don't want us to. I want to be responsive to requests from members of the public, especially about their own cases. But since that's not in keeping with what we typically do, and I don't want to rewrite policy, and there wasn't anything that was incorrect about who was representing which side, I think I'd rather leave those aspects alone. Mr. Warfield, was there something where the one thing I was interested in where you said that one comment you thought represented the opposite of what you intended? Can you tell us which paragraph you're looking at and on which page?
I believe I can. If I may comment on what's just gone down, nowhere is Mary Giraduzzi identified as connected to the Library Commission, nor is Margot Schaub connected to. She's not on the Library Commission. Well, how can she be the respondent if it's the Library Commission against whom the complaint is? So I think those kinds of relationships need to be clarified, and would be if they had the proper titles. With respect to, so I think that's very important, so we know who is involved and what their relationship is to the complaint. With respect to anonymous number, go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, with relationship to the complaint, it's very clear. Margot Schaub is the respondent. She's speaking for the library.
If the library is shown as respondent, then it's the wrong respondent. The complaint was against the Library Commission.
Let's not debate this point, Mr. Warfield. I'd like to know which paragraph it was that where you felt as though you're the opposite of what you intended. If you could point out that paragraph, I'd like to know where that is. And then once you do that, member neighbors, I see your hand.
And Margot Schaub is identified with the public library and as respondent. I am identified as petitioner only, and no connection to any organizational entities shown. I'm stripped, and they're not. Anonymous number 3. And I'm sorry to say that's part of a confusion game and a a lowering down that I don't appreciate. Anonymous number 3 under public comment, just above where you've taken the motion. The next one above Mr. Sullivan. Noted with regards to hand lowering, and the reason it happened to Mr. Warfield is because he lowered the hand. Anonymous specifically said his hand was lowered. Somebody at the Library Commission lowered his hand. He said he had the exact same experience at a different department where, as he put it, they forcibly, and that's important, they forcibly lowered his hand. He used that word twice.
Okay.
Forcibly lowered his hand.
What we're going to do is we're going to adjust that. So, Ms. Leger, if we could change it to, and the reason it happened to Mr. Warfield is because, I hate to state this passively, his hand was lowered or
and Anonymous did say
no,
that
Mr. Warfield, I'm not asking Mr. Warfield, I'm not asking for further detail here. We just need to, Ms. Leger, we just need to make it clear that just say that because his hand was lowered by, actually, I mean, we should say at least give a by someone managing the, were they using Microsoft Teams? Do we know? Or managing the meeting system. Member Neighbors, you had a question or a comment.
Just a comment, and I have cause to in my life to read minutes of various governmental bodies, and I don't believe that including people's titles in the minutes is standard practice. It's standard to be consistent for sure, and so I think that's, we actually go above and beyond in our minutes, including information from public comment, and I think that's out of our respect for the public that comes before us and their input in what we do. But and I appreciate Mr. Warfield's concerns about accuracy, and I always second those concerns. The minutes should be accurate, but I don't think that it's an issue that we carry the titles of individuals at the meetings. I think that's not necessary.
I'm also not sure that's parliamentary procedure either.
Okay, I think members of the committee are. I'm sensing that we have consensus on that. That we will not be adding additional titles since that is not our standard policy. But Ms. Leger, if you could make that wording, those couple of wording fixes that we've discussed, and then I think we're ready to call a vote for approving the minutes.
Okay, so we are not including Mr. Warfield's title as Executive Director of Library Users.
Please leave it where it is in the first mention in the minutes, but we're not saying that it needs to be added again because that is not our standard practice, and so we will not be doing that.
Okay, and then when he makes public comment, Mr. Warfield, is because his hand was lowered by someone managing the meeting system. That was the language you gave me. Anonymous 3's public comment.
I don't want to put words in. I don't want, because I haven't listened to this again. If you could make a modification to it to say because his hand was lowered, and then if you could listen to the minutes and see if it's appropriate to add that additional context, and if so, do that. But otherwise, I think if we could say his hand was lowered, at least that would be accurate.
Okay, got it. So now we want to go for an action. A motion, rather?
Members, members, are we ready to proceed? Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
This is member Wong. I will make a motion to approve the November minutes. Is that right? Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, this is member Neighbors. I second.
Okay. Please call the vote.
Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Neighbors?
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Chair LaHood?
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. Chris? Member Highland?
I'll pass. I'll pass.
Okay. Okay, so do we want to go to item 3, public comment?
Could you please, I didn't hear what you said. Did you say the motion passes?
Yes. Yeah, let me just say that. Make sure. Yes, the motion passes. I apologize.
Thank you. Please call the next item.
Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda.
Okay, so would anyone like to make general public comment for items not on today's agenda? We'll create a queue. Please press *6 if you need to unmute yourself. Who would like to make public comment?
Well, Peter Warfield, I'd like to make public comment.
Okay, Mr. Warfield, you are first in line. Would anyone else like to make public comment today? Hearing none, Mr. Warfield, wait until Ms. Leger gives you the signal with the timer, and then you may begin speaking.
Mr. Warfield, are you ready?
Whenever you say to start.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. I think there are a number of things to bring up, and unfortunately only 3 minutes, so let me say the first thing. With respect to hearings, there's a very confusing, and I don't think it's been defined in writing. I do think you need to be procedurally clear about what's going on. Actually, before I forget it, I'm not clear whether you have now got a new committee or if it's now 4 members. It sounds like all 3 of the members that I'm familiar with are present, plus member Highland, and I don't understand how that works or why that's happening and how that happened and so on. I think it would be helpful if you would let folks know what is happening. With respect to procedures, I think it's important to be clear in the minutes. I don't appreciate hearing about how it's your tradition. There was a time when Rick Nee would not agree to pass the minutes until they were right. And the task force had something like half a dozen or more minutes that kept coming back because they were not accurate. Accuracy in the minutes is vital. And to the extent that there's chaos or unclarity, the blurring kind of leads to a breakdown of any kind of procedural or, in fact, democratic process. There needs to be clarity when there's a violation of the law. Who did what and why, and how did they violate the law, and so on. And that's why I'm particular about that. On the previous item, there was no clarity that I was representing Library Users Association, which was shown as bringing the complaint correctly, nor was there clarity that Ms. Schaub was representing the commission because she has no connection to the commission other than through her title. She is not on the
30
commission.
seconds.
Okay. What do you say?
30 seconds.
With respect to the procedures generally, you have a thing where you have the complainant and the respondent, and then you have in each case you invite folks who may have information or opinions in support of each party. Does that mean that you could have an hour's worth on one side and 5 minutes on the other? There needs to be clarity also that you can't have public comment, or you don't allow public comment for those who take part at that point. That isn't always clear, and I don't think it's written anyplace.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment? This is general public comment. This is for items not on today's agenda. Okay, I'm not hearing anyone. Please call the next item.
Item number 4, file number 21152, complaint filed by Jeremy 2 against Ken Peng and the Human Services Agency for violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and or complete manner.
Okay, and we are here. This is for compliance. And actually, Member Highland, since you have joined us today specifically for this case, would you like me to direct the conversation, or shall I direct the conversation and invite you in for questioning at an appropriate time?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
If you like, I can give you guys a summary of where this has been and kind of bring it up to speed so that we're all on the same page.
Okay, that's a good idea. You know, before we do that, let's make sure that both the petitioner and respondent are here. Are the petitioner and respondent here? Could you please unmute yourselves and let us know that you're here?
Yes, I'm Jeremy Chu. I'm present.
Okay, Ms. Chu, thank you. And is Mr. Peng here?
Yes, sure.
Okay,
so,
great.
Ken Peng is here.
Okay, thank you both. We're going to have Member Highland give us a quick summary first, and then we will check in with both of you about the status of the compliance for this case. So Member Highland, please.
Okay. Actually, the summary in the under the file is quite good, so I'm mostly going to read from there. But basically, this case, has gone through several different iterations, and we finally got Ken Peng on the call with us with the petitioner. We determined there are documents that are responsive to her request, and then it really came down to a question of redaction. We cited 6726, and we felt at the time that their redactions were not appropriate. We gave them a timeline. In fact, longer than the 5 days. I think we did this at the last full task force meeting. And it looks like most of those documents have been provided. However, you can take a look and decide whether you think the redactions are still appropriate or not. And it's really balancing, Government Code 6254 against SOTF 6726, which I think will direct your conversation and deliberations. So this was regarding 2 open positions, which were listed there on the HSA website, 0031-3347 and 010-72508, which were noticed. People applied, interviews were done. There was scoring of interviews, conversations about candidates, and eventually those 2 positions were filled. So that's the purview of what we're examining right here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That was helpful. I know that, or we know that there has been some exchange of documents, and some of those I know were received by the January 21st deadline. But it's I want to ask Ms. Tu, can you tell us you can tell us what you've received. More importantly, is there anything that is still outstanding that you have not yet received, or has your request been satisfied at this point?
Yes, I can give my summary. There are several items that are still outstanding. The most important of all is the Microsoft Teams screenshots, and there are several emails. There are gaps in the email providing to me. There are also, I have requested all participants. So for example, let me give you an example. Emails not provided. It's from Mohammed Bam, who was selected. There's absolutely no email from him. I do not know how the agency communicates to him, how they offered the position to him, or when he went for a fingerprint. I don't have anything from this candidate, and also from Karen Trin, there's none. And for the candidates that they wish they had her, but unfortunately she didn't get the position due to seniority. I do not know how the agency or how Mr. Pang solicited information, because from the emails I read is that she replied, Ken, this is how I applied, found out how the position, about the position opening. So this Marianne was interviewed and offered the position. There's none from HSA, any email to her, because they have to retract the offer, because I have more seniority than Marianne Wu. So I'm just giving you some examples. I went through all the emails and created a spreadsheet. And also, since I was interviewed on September the 30th, and the hiring manager submitted the rating and selection sheet to HR on October 6th. In between, I do not know how the other two panelists, when they submit their scoring sheet to the HR manager, the hiring manager, to be submitted to HR. So there are I was given selected email documents, so to speak. But most importantly, I'm after the MS Teams screenshot as well. And Mr. Pang refers, the agency does not have the record. That is not acceptable.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate having that summary. Mr. Pang, could you please respond? I know that you did supply some documents, and Ms. Tu acknowledges that as well. Could you talk about these missing items and what you could do to help supply those?
Before we start, Chair LaHood, I just want to clarify, we are using a 5-minute time to speak, because I had set the clock from as 2, and she didn't use all her time.
You know, this is compliance, so I ask that the parties speak succinctly, but I don't think we have to worry so much about a timer.
All right, then I won't use it.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Mr. Pang.
Oh, thank you, Chair LaHood. In response, in regards to Ms. Tu's suggestions that we don't have, that I'm withholding the Microsoft Teams screenshots, it's just not true. We do not have those Microsoft Teams screenshots available to disclose to her. I wanted to clarify, and going back to her original request and to us, and then her final request to us, she just wanted the emails between these individuals. she did not mention Miss Mary Ann or Karen Trin or Mohammed, but in regards to the responsive documents that I have provided to her, I provided her to nearly 800 documents and chronicling all the communications that is entailed the hiring process in which she had seeked, as well as also providing her with a score sheet in which she had asked for. That's all I can respond to.
Okay, I have two quick questions, and then I'm going to hand things off to Member Highland. Regarding your response about the Microsoft Teams screenshots, are you saying you don't have them because screenshots were not taken, or because screenshots exist and they are in the possession of a different department?
I believe it's the former. The Teams screenshot deletion program probably expired, and so therefore there are none available.
Okay, so you are saying that they don't exist, so you're not providing them because they exist but aren't in your possession.
No,
you are saying
no.
You do not know
of
their existence.
Correct. I do not know of their existence.
Okay, and then the other question is, so you are saying that the three additional people who were mentioned were not in the original request, but and maybe Member Highland can help clarify this, but it sounds like Ms. Stu believes that there should be correspondence with those people that should have appeared if her initial request had been responded to, because there would have been correspondence with the other named parties. Can you explain that?
And to the extent, I did reach out to those individuals as well, and those individuals did provide me with everything in terms to the request that Ms. Tu had asked, and I did provide those that are in my possession to her. Yes, that were provided to me, and I gave it to her.
Okay, Member Highland, I'd like to hand it off to you because, as we said at the beginning, I feel like you have a deep understanding of what's going on here.
Right. So, Mr. Pang, I'm gonna start with a question to you, and I'm going to restate Chair LaHood's question about the Microsoft Teams screenshots. How did you search for that?
For the team screenshots, I approached all the recipients in her emails request, and I asked for those team screenshots as well as those emails, and none of those team screenshots were provided to me. Okay.
So that sounds like they exist, but they weren't provided to you. So be careful how you answer that. I'll ask you again.
Yeah. And I wanted to clarify, and the reason, and I did clarify some of that, the team screenshots with those individuals, and because of the retention policy for the team screenshots, they looked and it's not there.
So they once did exist, but now they don't exist. Is that your answer?
Yes.
That's interesting. That's not quite the answer you gave the first time around.
Okay. Well, what I'm trying to say is that we do not have those. I do not have those particular team screenshots to provide to Ms. Tu about this individual. But in light of what you're clarifying, I may ask the IT to do a search and see if there's any way they can look for the confirmation of these team screenshots.
Right. That's what we asked you to do. Yeah, we asked you to do that 3 weeks ago in time for this January 21st deadline. So why was that not done?
I apologize because I didn't understand exactly that question. I apologize.
Okay. So we're going to do another search with the IT department to see if screenshots existed, how many, and we're also going to look into why they're no longer in existence, because and I'm sure there's a retention policy that's longer than, 3 months or 4 months when these screenshots were taken. Okay, that's the first piece. Second piece, I'm not a Microsoft Teams expert, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of the chats and the texts are still there. Every time I sign into Teams, I see old chats still there from previous meetings. So, again, ask your IT department for any messages, chats, during those sessions. Okay, so that's how this search should have been completed the first time. And I gave you an extra, 7 days on top of the 5 that we could have done, and you still haven't made a proper search into this. So that's the first piece. The second piece I'm going to ask you is the score sheets. Now, we'll get into it with the rest of the members about 6254 and whether it trumps 6726 or not. However, let's say it does, and you've redacted the names of the applicants. And keep in mind, they're applicants, they're not employees yet. So that's another reading of 6254. But anyway, there is absolutely no reason, in my view, that the actual score should not be released or should be redacted. Now, the scoring keys, you can redact that. The questions, you can redact that because those are future, questions that you're going to ask future candidates. That's fair enough. But actual scores belong to nobody in particular because those names have been redacted. Those should be revealed. Those should be forwarded to her. How would you answer that?
But Chair Highland, I did release those to her on the score sheets. The total. Are you referring to the total points?
I am, and I believe I saw that it was not released. I saw even the actual scores were redacted, and she writes to that in her email.
Right, as a subsequent follow-up, and I provided her as well as CC the SOTF with the updated redacted version of the score sheet, in which I provided her with the total, the date, the interviewer's name, the scores, in which the tally of those individuals, as well as the total points at the bottom of the page.
All right, I may stand corrected there. Ms. Chu, can you respond to that? Did you get the actual scores that you're looking for?
Yes, I can confirm that Mr. Pang provided to me on Friday or in the subsequent email. Yes, I can confirm that.
Good. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Pang. So I take back that line of questioning. So really, it's the Microsoft Teams screenshots and the Microsoft Teams chats that need to do a proper search on to give to Ms. Chu. And members, Ms. Chu, I mean, this is not our concern, but Ms. Chu is trying to gather this information because she's pursuing legal action next month. And this request has been going on for probably 4, 5, or 6 months in different shapes and forms and iterations. So that's kind of the greater context here. That's probably enough for me at this point. Thank you, Chair LaHood.
Actually, I have a question regarding, and then I saw somebody's hand go up and then disappear. I have a question regarding the screenshots. I'm assuming that, are we talking about screenshots that were taken by individual meeting participants, or are we talking about automatic screenshots that Microsoft Teams takes intermittently? Does anyone have, do any members have an answer for that, or should I direct that question elsewhere?
Well, that's a great question. Again, not being an expert in Microsoft Teams, I didn't realize it even did that, but I'm pretty sure. I don't know
that it does. My question was, did you assume that we were talking about screenshots that meeting participants took, and because it was in the capacity of their work, that those then become records that can be sunshined?
Yeah, I think this is the question.
Related to my question as well. I noticed that Ms. Tiu in her packet said she knew that they existed, and I wouldn't have assumed that team screenshots would exist from a job interview, but it sounds like there must be a protocol for that or an automated process for that. So for those to exist. So I'm just curious about the context around why those why, but that we know they exist and how they come to be. Because just like when you, for most people, when you power down sometimes a video conferencing software, there's an automatic save of your chat. And it goes to like a download box in your on your computer in the program area for that You know, it just does it automatically, and you can go and find those in there. You wouldn't know it unless you knew it was there. So I'm curious, that would maybe be helpful for Mr. Pang for searching for those as well.
Thank you, member neighbors. Ms. Du, can you tell us, when you say that you know they exist, do you know they exist because of your understanding of protocol with Microsoft Teams, or because you happen to know through that you happen to know of their existence for some other reason that individuals took these screenshots?
I can refer you to the packet on page 26. I took the screenshot manually because I know that HR and the hiring unit will cause me problems. And I took the extra step and saved the screenshot manually. If you look at page 26, starting with, I just started on August the 17th. That's the first contact that I had with HR. So when Mr. Pang did the search, or whoever did the search, it should not come back telling me there is no such thing exists. Because if you look at the page starting in your package, page 24, I have the very first contact with HR. And if it's, because nowadays everything is not over telephone call, it's going through the chat. So therefore, I kind of saved all those screenshots for myself for the reference.
Okay, so you know that your screenshots exist and you have those. Is that correct?
Yes, I have them. No, I no longer have those, but prior to that, I saved it. I saved those screenshots. But if I did the search, that I'm absolutely certain they can retrieve it.
May I ask a clarification?
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sure, Mr. Pang.
When Ms. Tu, when you say you took a screenshot on the team screenshot, what exactly? I saw that. I mean, what exactly does it detail?
What I'm going after is, because from all the emails, there's none. There's no communication with the panelists. I do not know how they discuss, how they come to the conclusion, or how they even schedule appointments, how they check their availability. You know, everything is through chat, right, nowadays. So I do not know how, but you cannot tell me they don't use the chat. Okay, I actually have documented my conversation with Ms. Bryce, and this is on the August 17th. And if you go through that audit, I saved it up till October the 8th.
Right. What you're providing is basically a confirmation and the appointment that you were communicating with Ms. Bryce through Teams.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Are you asking for me to provide you with Teams screenshots or confirmation on these individuals, like say Vladimir Rudakov, Wani Quinn, Arlene Bryce,
yes.
and Jose Ortiz,
yes.
to each other? Just basically, you're looking for what? A confirmation that a
not confirmation, conversation, because there might be group chat after they interview the candidates, right? Or some other media.
Okay, thank you both. Member Wong has a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, this question's for Ms. Tu. I was wondering if you happen to have information about like where those screenshots were stored, what the titles of those screenshots were. Like, are you able to give more details to help try to locate those?
Unfortunately, I'm not from IT. I don't know, but probably the way to go is probably okay. He can search August 1st, Vlad, for example, Vlad Budakov, whatever he has on his Microsoft Teams. Then he can index it and redact it, whatever information is not related to the two open positions that was in question. Because I assume the director also communicate with other people that is not related to the two reassignment positions.
Sorry, I think I'm a little confused. So, because I thought you said that you had saved the screenshots.
Yeah, I have saved it. That's why I save it manually. That's why I provided. If you look at the packet, it's on page 24. I save it.
I'm looking. So is it P24 of the packet or page?
Page 24 of the packet. If you open a packet, there was page 24, but it's on the stem. It's page 30, starting page 30. If it's stem on paper,
page numbers change from
30.
Yeah.
So this is actually, it's a screenshot you shared in the Microsoft Teams chat.
That I save it for my records because I know I will use this later.
Gotcha. So, Chair LaHood, if I could chime in. Again, to give more context for the other members here, HSA is required to have, I think, 3 applicants for position. There were 2 positions. For some reason, Ms. Chu got overlooked. She was, in fact, one of the more senior candidates. So that's the backstory to why she's trying to get all this stuff.
Right.
On the other side, it's interesting in this conversation. It'd be good to have someone chime in on Microsoft Teams. I wish Anonymous 3 was listening in, because I'm sure he could probably set us straight on what it can and can't do. But I'm just thinking, I know we record our Microsoft Teams sessions. How much of that is public record? What ours is all public, but I mean, how much of that could be requested? How does one redact the actual recording? Those are sort of, I'm going down a rabbit hole here with the whole Microsoft Teams piece. And then what Chair LaHood said about does Microsoft Teams take sort of periodic screenshots to provide like a slides, stack of slides kind of record of the meeting. The chats probably are more easily searchable and pullable and redactable, I would think. So, there's a whole Microsoft Teams angle here that I think Mr. Pang's willing to have the ID department help us investigate and hopefully pull some more information. And just to be clear, I think what Mrs. Chu's asking for is, she gives a pretty specific date range, which is in the original notes, July 1st to October 13. So it's not that onerous. Those people named are or were current HSA employees at the time involved in that hiring process for those 2 positions. So she's trying to, I think, just do her due diligence and gather as much as she can, for her legal efforts next month. So just to kind of bring out back to focus. So, we can certainly, request and or instruct Mr. Pang to do a deeper dive into the whole Microsoft Teams piece. I was trying to do some research on the side just to look to see what, as Microsoft Teams do screenshots. It's not clear from the quick research that I did. So we could hopefully get some technical direction there, maybe from one of the members of the public or our clerk, Victor, if he's listening in.
I was going to say, I just saw Victor's name pop up. I want to give member neighbors a chance to talk. I do happen to know, because of, at least with our recorded meetings, because I have made requests, you can easily get a copy of the chat and a slightly complicated, but a transcript of the audio. It's not perfect, but that is because the meetings are recorded. I don't know if these meetings in question were recorded, but if they were, there should be a lot available. Member neighbors?
Thank you. So first of all, just let me ask Mr. Pang, do you know if the interviews are recorded?
I do not.
Okay, so that's an easy first step.
Actually,
for finding
we
data.
could ask Ms. Tu, because she participated in one. Was the meeting recorded?
No, the interview was not recorded.
Okay.
Okay. So if the interview is not recorded, I think it's worth checking to see if there's an automated thing, but I doubt there is, because I'm not sure that would be ethical or legal to do that, because you wouldn't be recording or showing people that there was a recording happening. And so it sounds like what Ms. Tu is saying when she says screenshots, what she's talking about is the chat data, right? And we know that's publicly requestable. We talk about it all the time in our own chat, right? And I think that is likely to be automatically downloaded or saved when a window is closed out. And it's just a matter of figuring out where that automatically is downloaded or saved. So that should be a pretty easy ask as well. Does that sound like a possibility, Mr. Pang? Oh, sure.
I'm sorry, who's talking?
Oh, was that Ms. Tu?
Hi, this is Rebecca Neves with HSA. If I may, I just wanted to chime in. So the interviews are not recorded. Ms. Tu is correct.
That's correct.
The other thing I wanted, pardon?
No, let's let one person at a time speak. Please go ahead.
The interviews are not recorded. That was number one. The other thing that I'm getting as I'm listening, and then I referred back to the items that Ms. Tu provided that were her screenshots between she and Ms. Bryce, I believe it was. So my understanding, and I just wanted to clarify from Ms. Tu, she's asking for screenshots in the chat function, not necessarily during the interviews, but was she asking for the possible chat for scheduling of interviews? And I just want to, can she respond to that?
Ms. Tu, can you explain what information you're looking for from the chat records?
Yes, I'm looking for information how the panelists communicate, because I'm absolutely certain it's not telephone call, because there's no email provided, so you must be chat. Unless there's like paper, I would accept that too. And also from the hiring manager, I do not know how she communicates with her director to communicate who she selected. There's no email records on that.
Chair LaHood?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Tu. Yes, Member Highland.
Okay, so let me chime in here, because we spent a lot of time on getting to the nitty gritty of what Ms. Chu is looking for. If you look on page 29 of the packet,
P29 or page 29?
P29. I think she summarizes it quite nicely here. And, all emails, documents, records, including messages on Teams. There it is, messages on Teams regarding the hiring process. And what she means by that, and we got to the meat of this with Mr. Pang last time at EOT, was anything to do with the hiring process of the two positions, which we list in the summary And then the dates, we actually went back a month, 7/1 to 10/13. And then she lists all those employees. And then the second piece is the results of those interviews to the 4 candidates, which you see right there. So basically anything and everything in every media format, message, electronic or otherwise, to do with those 2 positions in that date range, right? Mm-hmm. So, interviews were made, results were tabulated, decisions were made, offers were rescinded. Where is all that? Is it all verbal? I don't think so. This is a, government department that has to have a paper trail of this kind of stuff. So that was the basis of it. And, I've seen some of the stuff Mr. Pang has sent, but it seems like Ms. Chu is still questioning, well, where's the rest of it? Ms. Chu, is that an accurate summary of where you are right now?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Hyland. Even those emails, they're choppy. If someone asks a question, there's no reply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so questions asked, was the email, was there no answer? Is it just communicating, it's okay to provide the answer and redact it as you see fit, but if there's an answer, there's an answer.
Just a quick discussion among the members before either the petitioner or the respondent jump in. It would not, I agree with you that offers being rescinded, we would expect to see something in writing. However, it would not surprise me if a communication was made over email and then a verbal response was given. That said, I'm not excusing the gaps, but it seems to me that that wouldn't be totally out of the ordinary. And I see Member Long nodding as well, just because, we all, in modern workplace, we all communicate through many different channels, and sometimes you get a question in one channel and you respond to it in another. Unless there is a policy that if the question comes in a particular channel, you must respond to it in that channel, and I don't think that exists. That said, I think the questioning regarding Microsoft Teams and what additional data may be available, it seems pretty clear that additional searching could be done here. Member Neighbors, I see your hand. I think you're still on mute.
I know. It's taking me a while to get off mute these days. You can find old chats from Microsoft Teams on the front page. You click Files. All your old chats are there. So that should be, if we could pull those up for every one of the people on that list and find chats. I believe even if they're not manually saved, they should be recorded there unless they were deleted, my understanding. And I believe attachments are available there as well.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time? What is the front page and the file?
So if you go to on your desktop, if you've downloaded Teams and it's on your desktop, it's purple. And it's got a navigation bar down on the left-hand side. It's also got a less easy to spot navigation across the top next to the join button. There's a chat and a files toggle, and the files takes you to where your old let's see, takes you, the chat takes you to your historical chats, and the files takes you to your files share.
Actually, I don't have those options, and perhaps because I'm on Mac.
Yeah, I was going to ask what operating system.
Yeah, this is I bet that's it. Because I don't have a Mac.
Oh, however, I just went to help, and there was a thing that said get log, and there are all the logs, I think, of every meeting I've ever been in. Okay, so maybe the functionality is different depending on which operating system you're using, but it seems that with some poking around, one could find these things.
I also see the logs, but I don't see any chat. So I think this is primarily like the application logs, as far as I can tell.
So Chair LaHood, could I maybe?
Yes, Highland, please go ahead.
Redirect back to Ms. Chu just to see what else we can still get her. I think, we've agreed that that Mr. Pang's going to do a search on the Microsoft team chats for that date range regarding those two positions and those individuals listed. And Ms. Chu, I haven't had a chance to review all of the material that Mr. Pang has sent you, but is there any other documents that you definitively know exist that you believe is still missing? And please try and list 1, 2, or 3 items as you know them, rather than possible items, because we can't really go into the realm of possible items.
So, with absolute certainty from Jose Ordinance, I did not see the email how he sent the scoring sheet to the hiring manager, or how. Yeah, I do not see that. Same for Claire Scott. That, because it's a document that they have to send it to. Email
Are these candidates that you're referring to, or what are those
names?
No,
the panelists.
Okay, the interview panelists. Okay, so how do they communicate their findings to the hiring managers?
Yes, and even the scoring sheet. How do they send it out to her, to the hiring manager? I did not see that email.
Okay, but you actually have the scoring sheets, redacted scoring sheets that Mr. Pang.
That's correct.
Sent you. Okay.
That's correct.
But what was the email? What was the body of the email? The message conveyed. Obviously they can redact the names of who they're talking about, but the content of the message should be provided. Okay, got it.
I think that's a very, very valid request.
Okay, and that's pretty much what you're looking for, that kind of data within the Microsoft chats as well, I'm guessing. How decisions were made. Okay, Mr. Pang, over to you. Those are 2 pieces. We've talked about the Microsoft Teams. You've already agreed to do a concerted search with your IT group to search on the chats. I don't think that'll be too difficult. The second piece, tracking down that paper trail of the panelists' results, decisions, forwarding of scoring sheets to the hiring managers. Is that something you can zone in on?
Yes, Chair, can I ask a clarification for Ms. Chu, if I may?
Yeah, you can ask us.
Okay, sorry, yeah. And in terms of the team screenshots, are you asking me to confirm if there is any recording? Because I'm trying to clarify.
No, we've determined there are not any recordings of the interview, so don't worry about that. We don't even need screenshots of the Microsoft Teams instances. We want the actual chats.
The text in the chat.
Yes, the text chat. Yes.
Okay. If there were any conversations between the hiring in terms of the individual.
Yes. If there are any conversations. yeah, if there's any conversations, and they can do a search on those position names, those position numbers. It could be any Microsoft Teams chats between Vladimir and anyone else in that hiring tree. So the IT will have to set up some pretty elegant and elaborate searches to kind of cull that information out and only that information.
Okay. My understanding is that our retention policy on Microsoft Teams is 30 days. But I can verify and check with the IT to confirm that. In terms of what I can do more research on that for Ms. Q.
Right. But
Right.
This original request, I believe, as we determined in previous meetings, was within 30 days. So,
okay.
It was valid at the time, if indeed 30 days is the policy. I find that very hard to believe, given retention policies in the city. But even if it was, I think the original requests were within that 30-day period. So I would encourage you to make all efforts to
okay.
Find that information, and maybe even provide, send us and Ms. Chu, copy us. Here's a search string that the IT department ran. Here's what they found. Here's what I'm forwarding. That would give us, assurance that you made a good faith effort to retrieve these records.
I sure will. And to the other point, Ms. Q was asking for in terms of the out of the almost 800 pages of documents I provided for her, there were one individual, successful candidate. She was offered, and they were rescinding because of the technical issues in terms of certifying Ms. Q's seniority date. I would also like to ask if it's okay for me to offer Mr. David Q, he is from the HR, to speak about this matter and to answer any more questions that the committee may have on this particular subject. Is that okay?
Sure. Is he present on the call?
Yes, Chair Holland.
Yes, and can you guys hear me?
Right.
Yes,
so,
your audio is a little bit garbled. I don't know if there's anything you can do to adjust your microphone.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
And members, let me just caution you again. We're not really, it's not within our purview to worry about their HR process and whether it was followed correctly or not.
Right.
We are looking at purely at, the documents that exist, and it's nice to have someone on HR on the call because they would know the process and, what forms and what score sheets and what offer letters would be generated, so that, we can probably keep our questions to that to determine are there any more missing documents. But maybe Chair LaHood, maybe let this gentleman speak.
Yes, if you'd like to speak for a few minutes, I gather you've been listening to the call, and maybe if you could respond specifically, if you have information about the offer that was made and then rescinded, if you could tell us how that was done and if there's a reason why Ms. Theo has not received copies of documents relating to that.
Sure. So first, my name is David Tu, and I'm an HR manager at the Human Services Agency. And if I may, before I answer the question, I wanted to actually give some information about the Microsoft Teams retention policy. So we did receive an email that went out citywide that affects all city departments, as far as I know, that effective May 6, 2021, the Department of Technology implemented a chat retention schedule of 30 days. So therefore, any one-on-one or group or meeting chats will be deleted if it's after 30 days. And usually employees will be able, if they scroll up to the very top, so I think one of the members mentioned that you have this front page with the chats on the left side, and you can kind of see your history on the right when you scroll up. For city employees, if you have any chats before 30 days, if you scroll to the very top, it will say that we've deleted your chats per your organization's retention policy. They give you a link to click here for what that means. And when you click on the link, one of the notes says that messages deleted by your organization's retention policy cannot be recovered. So I just want to let everyone know that this is information that we have regarding the retention policy for the city for Microsoft Teams chat.
Okay, Member Wong, I see that you have your hand raised. You have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you were able to make that email or notification by the department available to us as part of the packet, and then also perhaps even screenshots of that indication that chats are deleted after those 30 days.
Yeah, so we do have the email, and I do have the email, and if I scroll up to any one of my chats, that does pop up at the top if there are messages before that. So I can send it to Mr. Pang to collect.
And Mr. Tu, regarding my previous question, can you explain the offer that was made and then rescinded, and any records pertaining to that?
Yes. So there was an offer made that we had to rescind because of the seniority issues that won't get into on the hiring process. So there would have been, or could have been, a combination of a phone call, possibly team chat, and followed up with an official email. But I would have to check with my staff member to confirm which method we went through, or which methods, if there were more than one.
Okay. Members, any additional questions? Let's discuss this amongst ourselves. What would we, it sounds like we have some ideas that we would like for Mr. Pang to go back to and do additional searches. Would anyone like to start formulating a motion on this?
I'm sorry, Chair, did you ask the, was it David, about the process of how offer letters are generated and disseminated? Did we get an answer to that? I may have missed that.
Oh, please go ahead and ask that. I was focused on how he said the offer was rescinded, and he said it could have happened in any number of ways. But Mr. Tu, you said that offer letters are made in writing, I guess, whether delivered by mail or email. That is a written document. Is that correct?
Yes, but I would need to check on this particular case, because the processes that are that these two positions are involved in, it's an internal HSA reassignment. This isn't a process where external candidates compete. It's only for internal HSA staff per our MOU. Therefore, we don't go through the communications, because it's internal staff. So sometimes it's a little more informal if we just call them and things like that. So I just want to make that distinction. This is an internal reassignment and not an external competitive. Yeah.
Mr. Tu, I'm an HR professional in my professional life, so I'm going to say that even for an internal position, you might send a letter of an offer, but there's got to be some record in your system that that letter was mailed, and usually mailed and emailed would be the normal process, even for an internal. Can you speak to that?
For an internal, if it's an internal promotion, we do have an offer letter. But if it's for an internal reassignment, I would need to check whether or not we use a template letter or if we simply just send an email. But there should be some communication. We just need to confirm which method.
Okay, so perhaps if you could help Mr. Pang on that vein, and Mr. Pang can, well, I still like to search for the the Microsoft chats, even though you seem confident that they've been deleted. Let's take a look. and then it kind of begs the question, what's in the deleted items folder? So if IT could do the extra step and go there, because again, this request was made within 30 days. So you guys, the onus was on you to provide that. If you go and look at the original request and what was requested when, this should have been provided, regardless of post deletions after that fact. This case has been ongoing for 5 or 6 months, so it goes back into that time frame when those should have been active and available. And Chair LaHood, I'd like to open a separate file on this for the full task force to look into, because this is kind of worrying to me, and I think probably Member Wong is probably thinking the same thing. But I'd like to get those screenshots and the written policy. And is this a government-wide policy? Is this just this department? Is this a pandemic thing? This is probably something maybe one of the subcommittees can look into.
I think that's a great idea. And since we're having a retreat this evening, why don't we, maybe that's something that we can mention for future items requiring discussion, so that we can loop the rest of the board in on that topic. Member Neighbors, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just going to underscore and second that from Member Highland, because it's reminiscent of previous, discussions and issues we've had with, city workers using apps that specifically delete messages, and this runs contrary to the ordinance's rules for record retention. So I think we need to explore it quite a bit more.
Okay.
In retreats.
Thank you, everyone, for both the petitioner and respondents and other representatives and members for having this robust discussion. I'd like to move things forward. Would someone like to make a motion so that we can consider it, open it up for public comment, and then make a decision?
All right, I'll make a motion, and I'm going to start with the time frame. I'm going to give you to the end of this week, Mr. Pang, so that's close of business Friday, because we've already, had a lot of time on this, and that is to provide us with your department, HSA's Microsoft Teams chat records retention policy, and you can include some screenshots, as David alluded to. Second part of that, I want to see a request to your IT department to recover deleted chats and what comes of that, because I'm not sure that records retention policy is in compliance with sunshine laws. And then the third piece would be to continue to investigate offer letters, electronic or otherwise, rescind letters, electronic or otherwise, between all candidates for these two positions following into the interview and the hiring process.
Okay, that is our motion. Do we have a second or any modifications to this motion?
This is Member Neighbors. I'll second.
Okay. I'd like to open this up for public comment. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on this motion? We'll create a queue. Please press *6 to unmute yourself. Would anyone like to make public comment on this motion? I'm not hearing anyone. If you're trying to speak, you might be on mute. Please press *6 to unmute yourself if you'd like to make public comment on this motion. I'm not hearing anyone. This is final call for public comment.
Can I comment for my own case?
I'm sorry, you cannot because you're party to the case. This is for people who are not directly involved.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, it sounds like we don't have anyone on the line who wants to make public comment. So, Ms. Leger, if you would please call the vote.
Member Highland?
Aye.
Highland, aye. Member Neighbors?
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Chair LaHood?
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. Moved by Member Highland, seconded by Member Neighbors, that Mr. Peng and the Human Services Agency will have until the close of business on Friday to provide HSA's Microsoft Chats, Teams Chats retention policy, screenshots, and request that HSA's IT department recover the deleted chats because we are not sure if the records retention policy is in compliance. Provide offer letters in electronic or first-class mail format and rescinded letters in electronic format or otherwise. Is that correct, Member Highland?
That's great. For the two positions referenced in the complaint.
All right, let me just, or otherwise for the two positions. Let me just.
And while Ms. Leger is doing that, I want to thank the petitioner and the Mr. Peng and his colleagues from HSA. We appreciate you doing these searches to help make sure that your department is complying with the Sunshine Ordinance.
Thank you, Chair LaHood.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Chair LaHood, and thank you, Chair Highland.
Okay. Ms. Leger, I think we're, please call the next item.
Item number 5, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the Compliance and Amendments Committee.
Do any committee members have announcements or items for future agenda to discuss? Okay. I am going to suggest that we call the next item and adjourn, although before I say that, we do have a retreat, which is another public meeting happening in a half an hour. So let's please call the next item.
All right. Oops. Item number 6, adjournment. I have 6:03 p.m. Who wants to?
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Since I'm the guest, I'll make that motion if that's okay.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Long?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I will stop the recording.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your dinner. See you again soon.